Recently, I received a question asking me whether I use techniques every single day, or if it's important to use a technique every single day to speed up that manifestation process. And I thought it was an interesting question, so here we are. In this video, I'm going to talk about if it's necessary to use techniques every single day, because in this manifestation space, some people like to call it the law of attraction space, there's a big emphasis on using techniques. It's really important to use it every morning, every night. Does it matter? Does it impact your results? Before we get into it, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, I do recommend that you watch this video till the end, because by the end of this video, I will be addressing that in depth. What does a technique do, right? The thing is, with techniques, it aids you in the initiation of the state of being. So with the state of being, just understand that is all. The state of being is when you're embodying the ideal self. And from how I interpret it, it places emphasis on identity shifting. You're shifting into who you must become, and as a consequence, it blends into your actions. It causes you to take specific actions, and because you are who you need to become and you're taking the right actions, by consequence, you attain what it is that you want. And it's sustainable, right? Some people that use techniques, they're not who they need to become. They're not who they need to embody. So when they get the results that they want, let's say it's a relationship, they manifest a partner, let's say an ex-partner back into their life, but they're not who they need to become. They were desperate to begin with. They were using the affirmations. They were visualizing. They were scripting, but they were not genuinely detached from the person. They were always the same. You can manifest something and not be prepared for it. Some people, they manifest massive amounts of money. They win massive lottery checks, but they're not who they need to become to effectively manage that money. They lose it. Most people do. But they still technically manifested a big win, but they lost what they won, right? A similar functional equivalent, if that makes any sense at all. So just understanding that, when it comes to techniques, the state of being is paramount. It's a foundational thing. And it transpires every single day. I don't want to sound woo-woo or, to sound weird, but the state of being is something that you're embodying all the time. It's just, are you deliberately embodying who you need to become? That's the difference. The results, right? The results are what matter. They often forget the foundational quality of just being. Being is as foundational as it will ever get. Shifting your identity is the very core thing. And I realize that some people might not understand just how important that is. You have to experience it to understand. And what a technique does is it assists you in tapping into that state of being, to becoming who you need to become. It assists you in doing so. A technique is most effective when it derives from principle. But some people, when they talk about techniques, they don't really explain that, and that's okay. Some people that are starting out, when it comes to implementing manifestation into their life, into their circumstances, they don't really care about the deeper principles. They don't really want to hear it. They just want the results. So it will get them results, but will it allow them to keep the results? That's why they're so valuable. That's why techniques are very important, because everyone has their own individual technique. It's not just affirmations and etc. It's not just what you see online or in the mainstream. You can have your own unique practice. You can have your own individual that you want to use. But the goal of a technique is to apply the state of being. As long as you tap into that ideal self, that's what matters. That's all that matters. And if you can do that without a technique, then good for you. But me personally, I use techniques too. it's not a wrong thing to use techniques. I know I've made a lot of videos talking about how, oh, it's all about the principles. And it is. But techniques are still pretty damn useful. And that's the middle ground that you have to come to when it comes to understanding deeper principles and then surface level techniques. There has to be a middle ground. So this is why techniques are valuable, but they're not necessarily needed. If you want to use techniques, don't be ashamed. Don't doubt they're useful. You can become who you need to become simply by choice. But a lot of people struggle with that for understandable reasons. They have limiting paradigms, limiting worldviews. They have things that are stopping them from genuinely embodying that self. So these techniques allow them to tap into that self through ritualistic practices. And it's powerful because the more consistently you apply that, the more ingrained that being state becomes. And that's why they're so powerful. So techniques can be used every day. That answers the question. Just understanding the role behind the technique, what truly matters, and there being a middle ground, and understanding that techniques can be used every single day for the right reasons. As long as you're applying the principle, then that's when the technique becomes truly effective. Is accompanied by feeling, but not the other way around. So when it comes to applying the technique and your goal is to tap into the state of being, I know you're probably asking deep down, okay, Richard, well, how exactly does that work? That still sounds kind of abstract. That being state is an intention. Your intention is to become that self. Think about expanding your comfort zone. And think about genuinely feeling worthy of having a circumstance in your life. Say a certain revenue mark in your business, or in your career, or having a particular person in your life. Are you genuinely worthy of that? Are you worthy of that? You watching this video, are you worthy of whatever goal that you have? Are you? Because people that don't feel worthy of that, when it comes to framing yourself as that person who is worthy, when they're using the technique, that is when you incorporate feeling. Because you'll notice that when you're doing that practice, because there are many different ways to do it, so I'm speaking in generalities here, but when you're using that practice and you're framing it from the intention of being, it is completely natural for feeling, good emotions, things like gratitude, things like a sense of comfort, a sense of worthiness, that you are this person. Emotions like that will arise. However, it's important to understand that it doesn't necessarily work the other way around. So it's a very subtle thing to understand, but hear me out and listen closely. When it comes to being, feeling will accompany that because it's your intention to embody that self, and the feeling accompanies that. But when it comes to feeling, you can feel something, but that doesn't mean that you are being. Some people will use techniques and they focus exclusively on having. Let's say somebody is trying to manifest a partner. I would say in this example, perhaps an ex-partner, right? They're using affirmations. They're tailoring their affirmations to be love affirmations. And their affirmations are based around, okay, well, I have this person back in my life. X, Y, and Z person is now back. I have them now. I'm so grateful that I have them. The universe gave me what I wanted. Thank you. And they embody the having of that, but not necessarily who they need to become to keep that. Their intention is not to become. Their intention is to have. And so, just because you feel those same emotions does not mean that it's intended towards being. It can be intended towards having as well. Now, focusing on having isn't bad. It's just that you cannot neglect being, because being is the core to all reality creation. So I hope that made sense. being is accompanied by feeling. However, it doesn't work the other way around. Feeling can be directed towards anything. It's your choice to decide where it's being directed to. Now, it's a very experiential thing. I understand if it sounds very fluffy, if it sounds very woo-woo. I don't blame you for thinking that. But I do encourage you to try. In the future, I am going to create more meditation audios. Just interact with that form of content, see how people like it, see if it actually helps people to get the results. Because why not? If it's going to help people, might as well produce some meditations or things of that nature. And understanding, it's very experiential. Some things I cannot fully explain for you. I can only give you the roadmap, but experiencing it is really what's going to make a difference. So that's why you need to apply. And that's what makes the biggest difference. Now, the feeling is only powerful with focused intent and acceptance of the relation. So what I mean is, feeling is powerful when you're focusing the intention. Let's say in this case it's towards becoming, it's towards being. The feeling is powerful only with focused intent and acceptance of that relation between the intention and the feeling. And it's very simple. When you're focused on becoming, right? You are becoming this person who is worthy of X, Y, and Z. And you have that feeling of gratitude, that feeling of comfort, of acceptance, and you accept that relation between the becoming and the feeling that is accompanying the being itself. That's when it becomes a part of your conditioning. It becomes a part of you. And that's why, by doing the technique over and over consistently, that's what really helps you to shift your identity and to bring about transformative change. So when it comes to techniques, that's also why, in that sense, being consistent is very important. And that's what helps you to really shift into that version of yourself. When you're doing everything else, when you're taking the right actions, that's what really helps you to get the best results. And lastly, think of feeling as potential. When it comes to emotions by themselves are not very powerful. They are powerful, but they are hollow at the same time. Unless you assign a meaning to the emotion itself, it doesn't really make a difference. If I feel happy right now and I allow that feeling to just dissolve, for it to just pass, then it's not going to make a difference. If I feel like shit and I allow that shitty feeling to dissolve, then it's also not going to make a difference either, unless I assign a meaning to it. And that's why the techniques are so powerful. When you use it in conjunction with the core principles, that's when it becomes effective. So do techniques every day, so long as you're doing it properly. It would be helpful. Despite the very abstract nature of the explanation, make sure to like this video and apply this. If you're already using affirmations or a technique, apply this into your life. This is why I recommend that you make your own affirmations, your own techniques, so that you can tailor it to yourself, and so that you can use, the being framework and focus on becoming the ideal self in those techniques. Make sure to subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Comment and let me know what you thought of this. If you have any video related ideas, if it's a good video concept, I'll make sure to produce a video on it. And if you're somebody that wants to implement identity shifting into your life to actually experience the results that they want, maybe you've been in a period of stagnation, you've been self-sabotaging, you haven't been experiencing results, or you're in a stagnated period, in your business, in your relationships, make sure to go in the description to work with me one-on-one and find out what it is that you need to do to shift your identity. Because everyone's patterns, everyone's tendencies are uniquely different, but there are some similarities. So if you're somebody that's dealing with an internal struggle, make sure to go in the description to schedule your free coaching session with me, and we'll see if we're a good fit to work together moving forward. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.